You're listening to Squatch Talks Podcast. Real stories and real encounters told by real researchers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Squatch Talks Podcast. I'm Eric Spinner. Today we're here at the second annual Cryptid and Paranormal event in Sayreville, New Jersey, and I'm here with Ron Morehead. You may recall Ron from the Sierra Sounds, and he really needs no introduction, but going to talk a little bit about quantum Bigfoot, and Ron actually has a new book out I'm going to talk about as well. I'll lift that off of there. There you go. Sorry about that. It's Bigfoot Unveiled. So that's exciting. I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of that. But actually, we're going to talk a little bit about quantum physics. But Ron, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, Bigfoot creatures, a family of them deep in the Sierra Mountains, California. Most people have heard the story, but I got involved in that over 50 years ago and started researching where giants could have came from, and biblically speaking, all of historical texts, maybe all the way back to Mesopotamia with the Anunnaki. We encountered the Sumerians and da-da-da-da.
Right.
And so it got me deeper into it, and I had to answer the questions that were still haunting us from the camp, which were how they do what they did, why we couldn't see them more often, just a lot of anomalies associated with them, which was unusual and couldn't explain with Newtonian physics. So Al Berry, the physical reporter we took in, he was a scientist, master's degree in science, and he said, stay with science, whatever you said. Sure. Science wasn't answering this question. At least not.
Michael Jervis today.
Okay.
Michael Jervis is an old son. We've done 100+ radio plays together, including Alien, where he let half and half grip down his chin.
A lot is associated with this.
To play Ash.
Newtonian physics.
But also The Shining and Rosemary's Baby.
It's all like
Forbidden Planet.
You'd love it.
Just trying to figure out
Empire Strikes Back. Raiders Lost Stars. We just did Die Hard for Christmas. If you ever want to see a staging of Die Hard in a bar with a themed pizza, go to our Pizza Lunch Theater at Kino's.
Shut him up. I didn't. Okay. Thank you.
Anyway, it got me into the science that answers a lot of the paranormal, the woo, stuff like that, because quantum physics is not the paranormal, it's not the woo, it just answers a lot of the questions that are associated with those phenomena which people don't understand.
Right.
And I just got into trying to get people to understand how everything really works, according to Dr. Christopher Breyer, West Texas A&M, that says everything from the atom to the cosmos walks in the laws of quantum physics.
Right.
So start looking at that, you find out all kinds of everything's energy, frequency, and vibration too. Sure. And we are energy at the most minor level, vibrating at a frequency. So that got me into quantum physics, and I think it's all about vibration. Get on the right vibe with these things. They communicate some people through their vibration frequency, and I think they can do a lot of things through vibration. Their vocal mechanism suggested an entity over 8 foot tall. We had studies at the University of Wyoming. And anyway, also their vocal mechanism is much more expanded than ours. Very, very complex.
Complex, yeah. And those thoughts, they actually have like an extra
well, that's why I've been told they do. I've been told they do. We don't really know that, but that would explain a lot of the sounds that we heard.
We don't know for sure, obviously.
Outside of our range, and inside our range, they can mimic just about anything they want to mimic. Parameters to see where average human vocal mechanism is. And so anyway, it got me into that, and you find from the crypto language, you're trained by the military, two-time graduate of the Foreign Language Institute in California, military operation, made a career out of transcribing unknown sounds, unknown languages, he got a hold of sounds, and he said there's a complex language in it. So that kind of throws an element into that most people just can't understand. How can anything besides humans speak, unfortunately, now?
Right.
According to Dr.
Yep.
Physicist.
Who shall remain nameless.
I got his name somewhere. I'm talking about Brian.
I hear you.
We're signing up for our
Anyway, he says only humans on the face of this planet has the ability to speak with an Executive language like we're talking about. And if that's the case, then these things have that. I think I've established that very well in this recent book here.
That's the preface for the book, Bigfoot Unveiled. But see, one of the things is I'm like a long-time researcher. I'm a flesh and blood kind of guy, but I've had now experiences out in the field, which we, used to call woo. I now coined a phrase called paranormal parallels, and it includes orbs, it includes strange lights, various occurrences. We've seen UFOs out in the field, especially in New Jersey and British Columbia. But some of the things we hear from witnesses of them cloaking, for example, or the footprints disappearing, that they're following, what I mean? And I tend to explain it by saying, they can leap great distance, they can easily blend into their surroundings, which makes them look like they're cloaking, but tell me, is there a different, it's in here. All right, I have to pick up the next copy.
Yeah, it's called Antimatter. Dr. Paul Dirac got the Nobel Prize in 1933 for his science equation, which said matter and energy are interchangeable.
Right.
We're all energy at the most minute level, vibrating at frequency. If you can find the frequency of anything that changes matter, that's quantum physics.
Right.
So somehow these things, through their advanced mobilism, can change their matter into energy only. They would appear to cloak to us. Their density would stop, so there wouldn't be tracks anymore either. So it kind of answers that.
It does.
It
does. And we've been doing some experiments with frequency out in the field.
Frequency's answer.
And have had some results as from doing it. It's just trying to correlate things and to just
What about here? Our brains have been conditioned to accept everything in this 3D density.
Yeah.
There's more densities going on, and we only see within 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our light's frequency. Anything else that we won't see. Somehow they go out of our frequency. So
that's true.
once they go out of our light's frequency, we'll see them.
Some of us even less of a frequency, right? So, in some cases. But no, I've always had that difficulty wrapping my mind around the fourth dimension.
When they come into our 3D density, when we do see them physically, they are flesh and blood.
Right.
They procreate, they do everything, they're in our density, they live by our rules for the third dimension. It's where they want to get out of frequency. They're not aging like we are, they're not subject to the same thing we are in the third dimension.
Right.
We can always graduate ourselves from third dimension on up, but you got to do that through your own frequency. By positive thinking, by thinking well, it's all in the book.
So make sure where can they find it, on Amazon or RonMorehead.com, Bigfoot Unveiled. I hate to cut this interview short because I really would love to sit here and talk more with Ron, but he's going up next to speak in a moment. I'm not speaking this year. I got the day off. I'm here to interview. So Ron, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to hearing you give your talk. And I hope you don't mind if I record that. Thank you.
Guys, we are about to start a super special presentation. If you guys want to take or find a seat.
Up next.
I don't know what that was. Don't worry. Okay. Coming from the sound guy.
It was Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, yes. There we go. Great. So there was a biologist in central Jersey who was researching in Allaire State Park, and he was researching in the snow, was following Bigfoot footprints for like a mile, right? All of a sudden, the footprints stopped. And he's like, oh man, my biology mind, this is now a non-scientific creature. This is now interdimensional. This footprints just stopped, right? So the next day, he went out to that spot to try to follow these footprints, and they continued, right? He said, how is this possible? Thing is, he didn't look up when he was in the woods, right? So he thinks the Bigfoot could have been right above him the whole time in the trees. And as a result, he wrote another thought-provoking book, The Quantum Bigfoot, which is very good. Still resolved to dig deeper for answers, Ron has produced another book, Bigfoot Unveiled. Ron now lives with his partner Carrie in North Carolina, but has traveled from Alaska to Patagonia and from North America to Siberia in search of the truth to how these beings are truly able to stay so hidden from classical science's radar.
Thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely.
And Mike, where are you? Anyway, I want to thank Mike for putting this together and for inviting me up here. Oh,
Where's Mike?
can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Well, I might change you guys' conditionings. I don't know where your brain's at, but we're going to talk about a lot of things. As you probably know, I'm responsible for the Sierra Sounds. I was up there and entertained the family with these things, but they entertained me one or the other for a few years in the Sierra Nevadas of California. That's me and my trusty mule and my horse back in those days. And I'm just going to start off with a couple little sayings. One for Edgar Mitchell here. See, there's a sound. I should have sound on these. Anybody hear that?
Oh yeah.
Next block over.
I've heard it before. That was called the Samurai Cry. Have anybody ever heard that before?
Yes.
Yeah. I recorded that in 1974. Actually, Matt Moneymaker from BFRO heard this in 1995, and he coined it the Samurai Cry. So he's responsible for that.
The name.
Just because it sounds like Oriole. Anyway, I'm going to keep going here for that time. There are no unnatural or supernatural phenomena, only large buried gaps in our knowledge of what is natural. We should all strive to fill those gaps of ignorance. Edgar Mitchell. Now, what I'm getting into here is there's more science than just classical science, which is 1687 Newtonian physics. And to get into the early 1900s, for where Max Planck got the Nobel Prize for quantum physics, that's called modern physics. And that's what I'm going to lead you into here shortly. But my books over there kind of explain a lot of the anomalies we were associated with the Sierra Camp. For a while, we just talked about the sounds only, but that's because one of the guys out there had a master's degree in science. He said, don't talk about the weird stuff or you won't get invited to talk anywhere. So, how many here have seen one? Oh, I have.
You're in the club.
Okay, and I witnessed their sounds, heard their chatter, and saw some Bigfoot. But that's how we got our supplies in the camp. We took some barrels up there with mules and stored our stuff up there. So when we couldn't walk in, we would. Well, that was right outside our shelter, and I'll talk about our shelter in a minute, but you gotta watch out, because they may be friendly, they may not be. Caution. I might change your conditioning. Some people think they walk around and give flowers out, but people think they eat you. So we weren't sure what they do with us up there, but they did eat us. We didn't give any flowers. But this is David Paulides, who wrote the foreword for my last book, Bigfoot Unveiled. I took him up there in 2018. Yeah. And he, this is before I won the hunt. Did anybody ever say that?
Yes.
I got about 15 minutes in that, and I'm going to play just a little 1-minute clip of what it took us to get to that camp. It's not like we backed up a truck and opened up six-pack, you know, it didn't work that way. We had to get into this imposing area, which is pretty aggressive. This is a 1-minute clip.
Just so people can get some idea, we're not that far outside of Yosemite.
Not far at all. I tell people we're between Yosemite and Tahoe, and that's where we are. If you leave from 6,000 feet elevation, you hike into close to 10,000 feet before you start dropping back into up and down. The whole topography up there changes every year. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what logs are going to cross the trail that you have to work your way around to get here. There's really no good trails to get here. And if you don't know where it's at, you'll never find it. It's just one of those places.
Well, that's what, once you get up there, that's what the shelter looked like. That's where we stayed when these things were coming around our shelter, and these sounds were recorded. We were inside the shelter, and we'd set our microphone out between the logs or something so we could hear them outside. And that's how we got most of the recording, except for that one you just heard at the beginning. And we were outside when that happened. And anyway, those first vocalizations were very aggressive sounding. Then after 2-3 years, so this went on for 71 through 76. And they changed. They become less aggressive. We didn't know that they were going to come in and eat us at the time. We didn't know, nobody's looking for Bigfoot. It's a hunting camp. It's been a hunting camp since 1958 by the Johnson brothers. I didn't start up there until 71 when one guy heard these things and he wouldn't go back. But the guys didn't come out when they were supposed to, so the wife said, he got to go back and see if they got ate or what's going on. Well, I'll go back. I was friends with them all, but I wasn't a hunter at that time. And so him and I went back up. The guys were okay, but that's when I see all the first tracks. Here's some of the sounds I started recording. Now it's like to hear that about 20 feet away from you. You don't know what he's grilling about. It's like a gorilla digging his chest. You don't know what they're going to do. No one's looking for Bigfoot. Like I say, we just thought there was some kind of creepy animal out there that hadn't been identified. But after a while, when you see the footprints and you hear these noises, we collectively call them Biggie. And I started looking into it then. And that's my mule. It looks like he don't have a head. Sometimes I wish he hadn't had a head. He kicked me a few times. So I can't stand up straight now. Not really. And,
I feel you.
Anyway, you guys have seen this before, I'm sure. You guys haven't seen that film, right? 2 or 3 times today already. Well, I've been to Patterson side 4 times researching that. I was down there with Peter Byrne, late Peter Byrne, who just passed away a few months ago. And he knew right where different things were because those floods come through that Blood Creek. It changes the landscape down there. But he knew where it all was. I got some good pictures of that. That's Al Berry. He's the investigative reporter we took in there in 1972 who actually fostered the sounds that I'm playing, a lot of them right now. And he had them studied, and because he was a science master. And that's him. What he ran across when he was trying to get these sounds looked at was a cognitive dissonance, where it's the mental conflict that occurs when beliefs or assumptions are contradicted by new information. That's what you're going to get today, by the way. Okay. He contacted all of Phil. Well, anyway, you can read all that in my book if you want to buy it. If you can't have one, I'll give you one.
boy who wrote his story, co-authored this book with Ann Slate in the late 70s, and told the story, but even though the information we got from, well, get ahead of myself. But just telling the story doesn't make anything prove. If I didn't have these sounds analyzed, if they hadn't got analyzed by the professionals who had analyzed them, I'd just be telling you a story like anybody could. But I'm going to let the sounds and the evidence I got here speak for themselves. This is Professor Parlin, who's a professor of electrical engineering. He said the sounds in 1978. The year-long study, that little box you see right there, is the average human range. Those little iconic numbers out there, iconic dots, are this particular sound you're fixing here, and represented an animal right for the tall. This little part right here. Did you see that? The zero there, the O? That's inside the human range. So if you listen to the end of this sound bite, you'll hear that sounds very human-like. And when you originally had somebody trying to look at this, you said, "Oh, this was a science by the way." They said, "Oh, that sounds human-like." It couldn't be, but I'm going to show you here where I believe there has to be a human component to these things, and I'll show you why here in a minute. That movie tone? That was the O's. But it sounded like a human. When this person heard that, they said, "Oh, you got it faked." Well, they don't know. Without knowing it too, Dr. Benson, West Texas A&M, listened to him, but he didn't do a full study on him. He said it was suggested an animal 8 foot 5 inches tall just from the pressure behind the vocal cords. And this, Dr. Curlin's reports in this book, Man Like Monsters on Trial. Anybody got that book? Besides me. How many's here today? Oh, nobody's here? Okay. Anyway, he showed his graphs and he made his paper. It's in that book right there, which was presented by the UCB Press in 1980. And it shows the data was outside the human range and inside the human range.
There were no particular evidences of re-recording at slower speeds. Definitely features in those sounds that would be correlated to an extremely large human male.
I just interviewed him 2 years ago, I think. He lives in Washington State. He's retired now, but he was top-notch, had top clearance in the military for doing work for them. This is Scott Nelson. He's a retired cryptolinguist, trained by the Navy as a cryptolinguist to transcribe sounds. He's a two-time graduate of the Defense Language Institute of Foreign Languages Center in Monterey, California. He heard these by accident in 2008, and he came out and interviewed me and Alan Berry and got the context of the sounds, asked if he could study them. He thought he heard language in it, and that's what he was trained to do in the military. Well, he came back and said they have language by the human definition of language. What that means, only humans have the morpheme stream of words that can make a sentence, a human sentence. Only humans have that. Except these things have that. That puts it in another category. I got more stuff that cooperates that statement too. Anyway, the importance of human language only. I just said that, didn't I? Oh, I keep going. According to Dr. Lieberman at Brown University, only humans, he's a cognitive researcher, only humans have the vocal mechanism for language. And this is an example of a language. The first one I'm going to play is display only, which you heard a few minutes ago. It's a chest beating type thing. The second one is going to be language. You'll know the difference. Well, there you are. That's a male and female arguing with you.
Yeah.
And they say the female won, by the way. But you just don't know if they're arguing over who's going to come in and eat this or what the salt and pepper is. You don't know. That's me years ago. My sagittal crest, I've got it covered up. A whole other track that we cast up there. This is 3 years afterwards. This is some vocalizations that when they were interacting with me when we were outside the shelter. And it was just me and the guy in the middle is one of the Johnson brothers. He's not there in that picture. So it's me and Bill McDowell. Him and I were the pack people with horses and mules. And and that was me. Well, one of them was me. The other one was, we had 3 of them we lived in camp. One was a samurai cry you heard of, he was behind us. And we lived as a female and an adolescent down below by the creek. And they were the one that was kind of chattering at me and asked me something. But I don't know what it was. We were all kind of jaded by this, but then we didn't know what they were trying to do, what their intentions were. But I tried to mimic them, and I think they thought that was funny, because I'm supposed to understand what they're saying. According to cryptolinguists, he thinks the same vocal mechanism made the same sounds from 72 that I played you earlier, and these sounds here. But he thinks they slowed their chatter, the rapid chatter, down to something we could possibly understand. But I wasn't looking for that. I thought they were still ape in the woods, like many people still do. And some of them may be, and I got a theory that they're not all the same. And I think I bled in from my travels around the world just looking for this different ones they call Bigfoot. They don't call him Bigfoot, they call him Yarra, they call him the Wild Man, they call him Sasquatch, they call him all kinds of things in different parts of the world. But there's a difference in them. I don't think they're all the same, and I'll show you why I believe that. Having language and plastic. Who came first? All the same age and Bigfoot. You know, they miss out of our chain or we miss out of their chain. I get way back into ancient texts. When I was raised religiously, I'm not religious now, but spiritual like we all are. Whether you like it or not, we're inhabiting a body, but this ethereal part of us, our consciousness is going to keep going. So that's according to science, and also some religions reach that too. They think you're going to go to heaven if you die or not. Science though says you're just going to change forms. According to quantum physics, nothing dies. Energy, which we're all made of at the most minute level, that's what we are, energy. Vibrating kind of frequency. So everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. That's a statement by Tesla also. So, I just love to talk about this stuff. Flesh and blood. Some people say, I'm flesh and blood only. Oh, they're interdimensional. Everything, if they're in our 3D density, is flesh and blood. And once anything enters our 3D density, which we're all in, third dimensional environment, it's going to be subject to our rules and our laws. And it can bleed, it has to eat, they procreate, they do everything like we do. But when we die, when this body dies, it's going to, the energy we got is going to go somewhere else according to physics. And that's give some. So I say nothing is just flesh and blood. Everything's got more to them. It's all vibrating. Vibration's the secret to a lot of things. But I've been around, like I mentioned that. I've been in Nepal, Siberia, Russia, Bolivia, Mexico. A lot of information I received out of Peru, which took me into the how they do what they did. How many years been to Peru and looked at that stuff down there? Gosh, that'll open your mind up. You can't get a hair between some of those boulders they got down there. They were tons, they weighed tons. Hundreds of tons somehow. And it's just strange. I was down there helping with two scientists on two different expeditions, 2 years, investigating elongated skulls. Warren Johnson whistling back at him one night, and they whistle, through the vocal cavity. They don't whistle through the lips like we do. That was found out in the study we had done. Classical science, that's what we're all trained in. Fifth grade on, 1687 Newtonian physics. And I'm really glad now that a lot of people are looking deeper, because a few years ago, I couldn't talk about the stuff I'm going to talk to you about today. It's what I kind of refer to as the rabbit hole. Is anybody here yet?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, thank you. Classical science is taught to depend on our 5 senses: the sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. That's what our brain is trained to identify with. Your brain only picks up once you've been taught. Until it's taught something else, it's not going to know anything else. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that out. Keep throwing it out if you want to. You guys have a sense of humor at all? Yeah. There it is. Okay, we're conditioned to believe that all reality is based on material, physical, measurable, and predictable. That is classical science. But we know now that's just not true. That's been proven by quantum science. It's called the modern science. It's more in existence. Open mind. Okay, here's another question. Who's got an open mind?
It's like a parachute.
Yes. You've heard that before. I'll use that analogy. The parachute don't open, it's not going to work.
Only works when it's open.
It's a hard hit, too. There it goes. I did that.
Sorry, take this material.
Okay, let me start off. Here, know your human limitations. Actually, not limitations, just what we're conditioned. Our frequency of light is 430 to 770 terahertz. That's the light's frequency. Everything outside that you won't see, because light is a particle until it collapses. Excuse me, it's a wave until it collapses. I've got, you only see within that frequency. All those others are out there, though. So, do you know how good a bear can smell? His olfactory sense? 20 times better than ours. 20 times. I was in Yosemite with a forestry worker, and she said, bears like the peaches here. Because instead of 7 cans, and he only took the peach can, so he could read. No, he can smell through the can. He knows what's in there. But I got to ask the question, could Bigfoot stay out of our visual perception? I want to see this limitations. There's all this other stuff going on. How does anything so big stay so concealed? Well, that, because we had one track up there, a track we were followed 25.5 inches long. That's a hard one to swallow. If I saw that myself, I'm not sure I would believe it. But anyway, there's some caves over in Turkey. Thousands of people were underground. Do they live in caves? Do they go underground? Well, maybe they can go. And I heard, you talked earlier, that's a Han Song Dong cave in Vietnam where supposedly bipedal reptilians were seen coming out of that. The military in the Vietnam War witnessed that and supposedly shot it, but they thought they didn't hit it, so they hit it back in the cave. They assumed they didn't hit it. Either that or they were told not to talk about it. But a lot of the locals are claiming they're seeing that also, bipedal entities coming out of there. And it's a big cave system, by the way, so it's own ecosystem in there. However, maybe, just maybe they stay underwater. I mean, think that's a Bigfoot. It talks about, it falls right in with Genesis. A lot of it does. Except it covers hundreds of thousands of years instead of a few days, like the Bible says. But you got to look into it deeper if you want to find out more. You just got to open your mind up and study, because it's all there. That's what I've been doing for now over 50 years, because it's really, really, really interesting once you get into it. But anyway, the Anunnaki were kind people that decided to take on our third density environment. They became here, so they had to go through what we do go through. However, they were powerful ones from the sky. Shiny ones, even Saber's called a shiny one. And when you get into it, it's really, oh, sorry, I gotta go. Are you gonna leave me?
I've got it up to help you.
By the way, this is my lovely wife, Carrie. Let me just run right through.
I'm not saying
You got like 1 minute.
Okay, that's it.
Take two.
Well, I just say over millennia, been touching You guys read it? You guys read that fast? I think the main thing I gotta say is know who you are as a human being, made in the image of something very special, very high density beings. We live in a third dimensional environment. You gotta get to the sixth dimension in my theory, to understand how things change and change things. But we're scheduled to be a ninth dimensional being. That's a shiny, that's what we're made the image of. And that's our 3, 6, and 9 with Tesla code manifestations. That's my interpretation of it anyway. I got a whole...
the end.
Stopped it, didn't you?
And pick up the new book.
That's it.
And get their new book,
How
Bigfoot.
you raise your own,
Unveiled.
how you raise your own frequency is very important, because we're all frequency. You raise it through condition your brain to react with everything, all your issues, with love and compassion. Until you learn that, you're never going to raise your personal vibration. Don't be a victim. Don't think everything's against you. Stay high, and you'll be healthier. You'll be working your way up to where you're supposed to go. Otherwise, you got to have to learn love and compassion somewhere along the line. So just understand.
Amen.
I made it up, how special you are. We're very special beings. Don't underestimate that. Very special. Oh yeah, I have my book. You want me to talk about my book? I got 30 seconds?
Longest minute ever.
Well, I've written 3 books, and I got my suggestions too, but how to interact with it, that's what you want to do. Control your fear, that's very important. Fear is your only enemy. If you go in the woods without fear, you'll have a better chance of understanding what nature's all about. But I got do's and don'ts, got that in my book too. They will toy with you. They think we think we're smarter than them. And we do think that, but we're not. At least now, I'm only talking about the ones in our camp that we interacted with, that I interact with, and the other guys do too. They are very, very unique. They seem to stay ahead of every trick we tried. So don't try to trick them if you go out there. But that's my quantum physics book. Gets into law of the surroundings and all these things. That's my last book, or that's my first book in my chronicle. It comes with a download of sound bites, and I have sold under 1 million copies of that.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Squatch Talks Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and give us a like, and stay tuned for more exciting stories on Squatch Talks.